Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Mem Vav Amud Beis. 4 lines from the top. Our Mishnah brought when a person has a chavis, a barrel of wine, and it has a cover that's a mold of clay that is on top of this chavis. Can you pierce the migufa shel chavis or not? It's a machlekes. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you're not allowed to pierce it. According to the Chama, you can. There's 2 different ways of explaining. According to the first explanation of Rav Huna, it means to say that they're arguing about the top of the megufa shel chavis. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's asur. According to the Chama, it's muter to make a piercing hole on top. And they both agree that on the side of the megufa shel chavis is asur to pierce. According to Rav Chizda, however, they're not arguing about the top. Everybody agrees that if you make a hole on the top, that it's mutter because that's an unusual place to make the hole. After all, you can have some dirt that falls in it. Their machlokes is about making a hole, piercing hole on the side of the megufas hachavis, and that's why I want to clarify and correct what I said last time. But everybody agrees that it's also to then make a hole on the side of the chavis itself, because that's considered to be a tikkun kli. The Gemara then brings from a brisa that if it's a new hole, it's prohibited to make a hole in the chavis. And we paskin that you cannot even add onto that hole that was pre-existing. But the brisa goes on to say if it's an old hole, then you could go ahead and then make a hole on that, and that old hole, you can go ahead and re-pierce it. The Gemara now discusses what is the definition of such an old hole that one can go ahead and re-pierce. Says the Gemara, quoting, V'shavin shenoikvin nekev yashon lichatchila. They both agree that in regards to making a hole, piercing a hole of an old hole, that is permissible. Omar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel lo yishanu ela b'makom ha'asui lishamer. We're talking about where the hole is in a place in the barrel of wine, where it's above where the wine is situated, so that the hole that was closed, it was closed in order to then keep the air, the reyach, from going out, so that the wine should stay good. Should still be a good quality wine. Aval l'chazek aser. But it's in order to strengthen the barrel, then it's also, the Gemara will explain these 2 definitions. Heichi dami l'shama, heichi dami l'chazek. Omer Rav Chizda, lamala min hayayin, zeo l'shamer. Lamata min hayayin, zeo l'chazek. If it's l'shamer, we said it is mutter. What again is that? As we said, that if it's going to be placed a hole on top of where the wine actually is, then it doesn't require such a strong seal. All you need is merely to then seal it so that the air doesn't come out. And therefore, if you re-pierce such a hole, it's mutter. But if the hole is lechazek, where the wine is situated, and therefore you have to put presumably a stronger plug, then by re-piercing it would be aser. Rava Amar, that was the opinion of Rav Chizda, but Rava explains, Lamata min hayayin nami zeu l'shamer. Even if you place there was a hole where there was a plug in the area where the wine was, even that doesn't have to be such a strong plug, and therefore if you re-pierce that hole, that's also begeder l'shamer and it's mutter. And therefore, he says, V'hechi dami l'chazik, Kigon shenikva lamata min hashmorim. What's considered to be l'chazek, which would be also to re-pierce, that is if it's going to be on the very bottom of the barrel. That requires a much stronger type of plug, whereby if you then re-pierce that, it's as if you're now making a hole anew. Omale Abai l'Rove. Abai now says to Rava, Tanya de Messiah loch. I'll bring you a brisa to what you are saying, that only if it's a very strong type of plug, then it's going to be something that's going to be a chasima, a very strong type of chasima, whereby if you re-pierce it, it's going to be a new hole. As follows, it says in the Brisa, Bayis sasum yeshlo arba amos. Here we're talking about if there's a chatzir. Obviously many houses are shared in that chutzner, how do you then define which part of the chutzner belongs to who? If you want to then divide up the chutzner. So it says in Bava Basra in the Bryce over there that up in front of everybody's doorway, he has 4 amos. And beyond the 4 amos that are in front of everybody's doorway, the remainder will be split evenly by everybody else. So it says over here, bayis sasum yeshlo arba amos. If they have a bayis that's closed, the doorway is closed up, so you still get dalet amos in front of that doorway, because it's not considered to be a permanent closure, since the doorway still is there, it's just closed. Paratz es pitzimov ein lo dalet amos. However, if they take away the door frame, then that's considered to be a permanent type of stima, whereby there's no longer arba amos in front of that old doorway. Bayis sasum, the Brisa goes on to say, if you have a bayis that's sasum, again, the doorway is closed up, it's sealed, and there's a dead body inside of the house, eino metame kol svivav, it will not metame all of the area, even those are within dalet amos of that doorway. Porat et psimov metame svivav, kol svivav. However, if indeed it's considered to be, you take away the door frame, then it's considered to be metame kol svivav, because then it's considered to be a kever. So therefore, we see from here, Abai comes to explain that we have a support for Rava, that only if it's a permanent type of closure, only that's considered to be a real stima, whereby if you apply that to over here as well, only something that's such a strong type of plug that's going to be on the bottom of the barrel, only that would be considered to be a true stima, whereby if you were to then re-pierce it, it would be a malacha of tikkun kli and it would be aser. Guvta. Here we're talking about guvta. It's saying over here, if you have a hollow reed that you want to put inside the hole of a chavis, of a barrel of wine. Rav aser, Shmuel shari. It's a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, whether it's mutter or aser. To cut the reed and then size it up for the hole, everybody would agree that that is aser, including Shmuel. Ahaduri the kuliyama lo pligi de shari. Just to place it back if it fell off, everybody agreed, even according to Rab, that it would be mutter. So what is the machlokes? Kish pligi de chaticha v'lo mesakna. The argument between Rav and Shmuel is that it was cut. However, they didn't size it up exactly by putting it in. Man da asar gazrin and dilma asi lemichtach lechatchila. The one who says it's also, namely Rav, says it's also because maybe one will then cut such a thing out lechatchila, and therefore it'll be over an Isser Makeh Bepatish. So they want to made a Gezeira over here as well, even though he cut it before Shabbos because he did not size it up. So midrabanan it's Aser. Man da Aser Gazrin Dilma Aser Michtachilo. Man da Shori Lo Gazrina. Whereas Shmuel, who says it's mutter, does not make a Gezeira. The Gemara says this machlokes in Rav and Shmuel over here is indeed a machlokes tanoim kitanoi. Ein choitchin shifa feres b'yomtiv ein sorich lomer b'Shabbos. One cannot cut a tube on Shabbos, and certainly on Yom Tov, and certainly not on Shabbos. In other words, to then Gemara is going to explain what we're talking about. Nafla, if it fell all out of this barrel, machzirno, so b'Shabbos ve'en tzarich lo b'Yom Tov. You can go ahead and return it even on Shabbos and certainly on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yoshaya mekel. Rabbi Yoshaya says he's mekel. The Gemara wants to understand in what way is he saying it's mekel. Rabbi Yoshaya ahai. What is he going on in this brisa? Ileima areisha hamekemesakin mana. If he's going on the reisha, so how can he say you can go ahead and cut lechatchil and size it up? For after all, that would be a tikkun of the kli. That would be makeh bepatish. So therefore, that would be aser according to everybody. How can he be mekel for that? Ela aseifa, you're going to say that he's going to be mekel in the seifa there. Even the Tanakama, nami mishra kashari, even is mekel and says mutter. So what is the machlok that Rav Shaya is coming to say he's mekel on? Ela the chaticha v'lo mesakna ika benai. We're talking about where it was cut before Shabbos, but it wasn't sized up. Marsa v'gazrinon, no marsa v'lo gazrinon. According to the Tanakama, it's usher because we make a gzeira that maybe he will then in the future cut and then make it and size it up on Shabbos itself, whereby he'll be over makeh bepatish. Whereas the other one says we don't make a gzeir, and that is the kula of Rav Shaya. So we see over here that indeed the machlokes amoraim that we said before between Rav and Shmuel is a machlokes tanoim. Says the Gemara, Vayter Dorash Rav Shisha Bred Rav Idi Meshmid Rav Yochanan Halacha Rav Yoshaya. Indeed, he says the halacha he paskins is like Rav Yoshaya, that we do not make a gezeira that maybe a person will then go ahead and then cut lichatchila such a tube on Shabbos and size it up. So therefore, if a person already cut the tube before Shabbos, even though he did not put it in and size it up, that would be mutter to put in. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah Vimhaisa Nekuva. If indeed it was already having a hole inside of the chavish shel yayin, and he wants to then chaysem the hole, we said in the Mishnah, if he does so with wax, he's going to be over an Isser, the rice of Mechatech. Says the Gemara, Mishcha, what happens if he then closes the hole with thick oil? Rav Osar u'Shmuel Sharta Machlekes, Rav and Shmuel. Man de Osar Gazrin Mishum Shaiva, u'man de Shar lo Gazrin. Their machlok is based on whether we make a gezerah Mishum Shaiva, that if we allow a person to then close up a hole with thick oil, he may come to then go ahead and close it with wax and be over an Isser Derais and Achatech. And therefore, according to Rav, who says also, we make a Gzeira Otu Shaiva. Omar le Rav Shmuel bra Rav Chano le Rav Yosef befeirush Amris lon mishmei de Rav Mishcha Shori. Befeirush, he says to Rav Yosef, you taught us that Rav says that it's mutter. And therefore, there's not a machlokes. When it comes to thick oil, both Rav and Shmuel agree that it is mutter to put, and we don't make a gezeira of atu shaifa. Says the Gemara, Vayter Amar Tavus Rishba, that's his name, Amar Shmuel, the name of Shmuel. Hi Tarfa da Osa Oser. Here we're talking about another machlokes, Rav and Shmuel, not to do with what we spoke about until now. He says over here that actually is similar to what we spoke about until now. There is a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel as follows. Haitarfa da osa oser. If a person takes a leaf and he puts it into the hole of a chavis, according to Shmuel, who wants to say it's oser. My timer, what is the reason? Rav Yemar medifti omar gzeir mishum marzev. It's a gzeira that he may make a marzev, a certain gutter. And therefore, by creating a gutter, that would be a tikkun of the kli. Therefore, we make a gzeira otu the marzev. That's how Rav Yema explains the iser. Rav Ashi Omar gzeira shema yiktar. Rav Ashi says, no, the iser is not because of a problem of gzeira mishum marzev, but rather it's because maybe a person will pluck out a leaf to then put inside of the chavis. My Beinayu asked the Gemara, what's the nafkamina between these two opinions? Ika beinayu dekatim umanchi. If you already had leaves that were already prepared before Shabbos, then according to the first opinion that there's a gzeir mishum marzev, it's still aser. That's Rav Yemar. But if you say the reason, like Rav Ashi was saying, is a gzeir shema yiktoim, here there's not a gzeir, there's not a concern, because over here you have the leaves that are prepared. Now the Gemara brings a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel that is different and nothing to do with what we spoke until now. Just another machlokes between Rav and Shmuel in regards to Hilchos Shabbos. Beisadya, if a person has a beisadya, is felt, which is a long piece of felt that they would normally use to sit upon, and he wrapped it upon himself, and he walked in the Rishus Harabim with that. Rav Osar Shmuel Shari. Rav says it's Osar and Shmuel says that it's mutter. Berachin the kuliyam alor pligi the shari. If we're talking about felt that was soft, then everybody would agree that was mutter, because a person wraps himself in a soft piece of felt and he warms himself up. It's a malbush, and since it's a malbush, it's tafel to the goof, and just like any other garment. And then for it's mutter to walk out in the Rishus HaRabim with. Bekashin, if it's hard type of felt, coarse felt. The kuliyamalo pligi diota, everybody would say that's also because people do not wrap themselves up to then walk out with that. It's not a malbush because it's hard and coarse. They don't wear such a thing. And therefore it's a masui. It would be an isser of hoitzah on Shabbos. Ki pligi b'mitzoi. They're arguing about if it's felt that is this in between. It's not quite soft. It's not quite hard. Man de osar mechzik masui. Uman de shori lo mechzik masui. The machlok is whether it looks like a masui or not. The one who says that it is mutter says that indeed it does not look like a masui. People do go out with such a thing, and therefore it's mutter. Whereas the one who says that it's also says that it has an appearance of a masui, and then therefore it's also midirabanan. It appears to be like a hoitzah. That which Rav said in this machloikis, when he said that it's osir, he didn't say befeirush. Ella mechlala idma. Rather, we can derive from what Rav said that it's osir. Says the Gemara, the Rav ikloi lahahu asro de lohavale Ravcha. Rav went to a place where there was not any room to sit down. Nofak Yosef bekarmelis. He went out and he sat in the Karmelis. Aisule beisadya lo Yosef. The Talmidim brought Rav a type of felt so they can go ahead and sit on it. That means they brought it into the Karmelis, and therefore there was an Isser D'Rabbanan bringing it, and he didn't sit on it. So from here we can deduce that Rav did not sit on it because he felt that even though we're talking about an in-between type of felt, that it's also to go ahead and bring out in this case in the Karmelis. One cannot carry it. Says the Gemara, Man the Chazis Savar Mishum de Rav Sadya Oser. The Beis Sadya Oser. The one who saw that thought that the reason why Rav was not sitting on this felt, this in-between status that wasn't coarse and wasn't soft, is because he held that it's also to go out with it. Velohi, however, this is not so. The Rav Achruzi Machriz Beisadya Shari. Rav indeed announced that a Beisadya is mutter to go out with. Umishum Kvod Rabboseinu Lo Yoshev Alav. Only because the kavod of the other sages did he then not sit on it. Umaninu, who are these sages that we're talking about, who did not have themselves a felt to sit on, and therefore he didn't want to sit on it? Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, although these were Talmidim of Rav, but they gained the stature of being a Talmid who was a Chaver as well, and therefore that he considered them to be colleagues, and as a result of the cover that he wanted to bestow upon them, he didn't want to sit on felt if they themselves did not have felt to sit on.